Welcome to Third Chances, a talk show where we like to hear from people who devoted their life to health, fitness, and wellness. Medical professionals, health coaches, and all the others who help us every day to cure our body, mind, or soul. Those who always look for more natural, holistic ways to help even more people to live a happier and healthier life. Those who don't like to give up easily and settle on you or themselves. It is never too late or too soon. I always believe that every one of us deserves not just a second chance, but as many as we need. I'm Vera, your host. Who better than a master of reinvention with an accent to guide you through it, right? Just like they say, you are not a tree, so move. And God knows I have done just that in my own life many times. If you are not completely happy with the direction your life is going, this show may help you get the courage to change what is needed, find a new path, and take charge. So come on over, pour yourself a glass of wine, and spend some time with us. Let's laugh and cry together and get inspired by people just like you and me who overcame their own doubts and took a leap of faith to reinvent their life on their own terms. I hope and pray that we help you on that journey. And if you feel so compelled and inspired, please let us know. Don't be shy. Who knows? You may just be our next featured guest with another inspiring success story. So here we go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances, where I have the privilege to interview really interesting people that overcame something significant and became somebody else that they originally planned to be. And I found this wonderful woman, Kathleen Davenport. We met online, and I'm super jealous, even though I'm in Florida. She's in Hawaii, which is a place that I have never been. And let me just tell you a little bit about who Kathleen is, or Kathy, whatever you prefer. Kathy is a professional photographer, certified life coach, motivational speaker, personal development trainer, golfer, and retired Air Force officer, recognized as one of the 100 most influential Filipino women in the USA. Oh, wow! Blending her unique skill set and her own personal transformations, she helps people, particularly those like us, over 50, look at life from a different angle and confidently start a new chapter. So, Kathy, welcome to my podcast. That's definitely the first Air Force officer. Woo! Well, thank you for your service, and
thank you.
Big hat off to you, because I want to know everything about how beautiful women like you decide to become military.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to have this opportunity to chat with you and just share some insights and chat.
Pleasure is mine, because you are exactly what I'm looking for. You have that story that people get inspired by, and it's our obligation to share it so others can get their strength that maybe they are desperately trying to find, so I'm looking forward for a nice episode, because I'm really curious about your life and what you overcame. And so tell me, how does Filipina, well, first of all, were you born in this country or you emigrated as
Yes, I am a Filipino, but born and raised in Kansas, in the middle of the United States, the continental United States. My father was born and raised in the Philippines, and he had the opportunity to join the U.S. forces during World War II. And so as a result of that, he came to the United States, where he met my mother, who was also Filipino, but she had never been outside the United States. Her parents had come over from the Philippines, and they were students and entertainers. And so they were in the same vicinity of where my father was then assigned, and they met and got married and obviously had a family. So that's how I wound up, I am a Filipino, born and raised in the Midwest in Kansas.
Yeah.
But came to Hawaii as a result of joining the military myself.
Well, did you lose your red shoes so you are not in Kansas anymore?
Did I lose my what?
Did you lose your red shoes so you were not in Kansas anymore?
I get asked that a lot, but I loved Kansas growing up there. It's just such a wonderful place, and it was a great place for me to grow up, and to be. And I still go there, and I still have family there. And
how long did you stay? How long did you live there?
I was there from when I was born to when I went through college. And then when I went to college, that's where I joined the Reserve Officer Training Corps, the ROTC, and got commissioned as an officer right out of college. And then so I was 21, 22 years old when I left Kansas to start my military career.
But so was it something you always wanted to do, or did it just came out of nowhere?
The military was the furthest thing from my mind. I grew up next to an army post, Fort Riley, Kansas. And I'd always see the soldiers and everything. And I thought, well, that lifestyle is definitely not for me. But in college, several of the friends, and including my boyfriend at the time, several of my friends were in the ROTC program. These were guys who were, determined they were going to go into the military.
Yeah.
And I said, well, good for you guys. But then they said one semester, and this is probably my junior year, I think it was, in college. They said, hey, why don't you join ROTC with us? And I said, oh, no. But they said, hey, but we're going to be going to a visit to Florida to visit. They didn't say it was a base visit, which is officially what it was supposed to be. But they said, we're going to go to Florida and we're going to go to Disney World. And I said, oh, that sounds like fun. And they said, yeah, there's a free plane ride that you get there. We go visit the military base and we go see Disney World. All you have to do is be a part of the ROTC program and just join for one semester. And then you can not join the next semester. I said,
wow,
okay,
really?
that sounds fun. Well, what happened? The base visit never happened. It never went through. But I got into the ROTC program and I loved it. It was exactly what I needed to be, the structure that I needed and the focus that I needed. And so they started giving me little scholarships, and I thought, okay. So I wound up going all the way through and getting commissioned as an officer.
I loved it because you were probably open-minded enough to, see where it takes you.
Exactly.
You were saying like, okay, never, because that would be kind of hilarious if you were going to risk your life for possibility of visiting Disney.
I know, it was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then it really did, when everything started settling in and I realized the mission, I realized that this was really, the people there had integrity and they had goals. They knew where they were going. And I thought, this is the kind of people I like to be around.
You found
so home. Never expecting that I would, have an entire career in the military.
And so did you have something else originally in mind when
Yes, I had always wanted to be, ever since I was a little girl, and that's what I was going to college for, was to be a teacher. And I had actually pretty much almost finished my, I was one semester away from getting my teaching certificate and graduating as a teacher. And then I joined the ROTC program. So I never finished it, but I've always, even as a little girl, I remember rounding up my brothers and sister and saying, we're playing school and you guys are in school. You're my students.
Okay, I need to ask you something, because I had the same dream. And I think today, looking back, it was more me being in charge. And I was like impressed with that, role that everybody has to sit and be quiet and the teacher's talking. I wonder if that was something similar for you, because I wanted to be a teacher as well. And I think looking back today, I think that was mainly because I was always kind of a leader in my field. I didn't want to follow. I wanted to lead. So I wonder if that may be similar.
I never thought about it that way, but that's probably part of it. That's probably a good part of it in the back of my mind. Yeah, I did like to be in charge.
Because you never played the students, right?
I never played the student. And I remember, I think at it now, my sister was always saying, you're the bossy one.
Yes.
So that's probably what was behind all of it.
That's probably. But so when you started, when that decision was made that you're going to join the Air Force, because that's even like freaking next level for me to imagine that not only military, but now you're gonna be flying planes or what?
I wasn't, you don't really get to choose. You kind of decide maybe what kind of career field you want to go into.
Okay.
And then, I knew I was too short to be a pilot. So I knew that was never going to happen. In fact, one of the stories that I have to tell about being in the military, when I was still a cadet in ROTC, we had a field training camp, a summer camp to kind of prepare us.
Mhm.
And I remember one of the officers there saying, he said, "Look, cadet, don't expect to go far in the military because you've already got 3 strikes against you." He said, "You're short, you're female, and you're a minority."
Ooh.
Oh, I didn't really, I'm too naive to even think anything. I just thought, okay, thank you.
Well,
And
this is quite a few years ago, right?
this was, this was many, many years ago. This was, excuse me, I was still in college. I still had one more year of college left after that. So, it was just something I tucked away, but I didn't really think of it as a negative comment. Now I look at it, I think, holy cow, he was trying to.
Today is different standard.
Today's a lot. Yeah, today he would never have.
Would
never
you
have
be like, did you retrieve because of it, or did you kind of feel like, I'm gonna show you?
No, you know what? Neither one. What was surprising when I really think about it, I didn't really think like, okay, let me show you, or I didn't think like, well, whatever. I just kind of like, you know what? I'm just here to do the best I can. And I think that's always been my attitude, is I don't have to prove anything to anybody,
Mhm.
and I don't need to shy away from it. You just continue to do the best that you can. And I did, and wound up graduating actually in the ROTC program at the top of my class, my ROTC class. So, it was a really good experience. But when you asked about, what field did I go into, it was, they looked at your scores and what your areas of study and what they think you would be good for. And I wound up being assigned to the intelligence field.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I see that I don't know anything about it. So.
Oh, well, what was interesting about it, really, where I wound up going to my first assignment, I was doing training for fighter pilots. So I was teaching fighter pilots about different things.
So you were still teaching. Look at that.
I was teaching, and when I look back over all the years, everything that I've done, all my even different careers since I got out of the military, retired, have all involved teaching in one way or another. So I still, I did it. I still did it. It was just a different, and it really, again, when I think about it, maybe it was a little bit, or is a little bit of like, I like being in charge, but I like seeing things happen. I like making things happen. And I think I like seeing people transform. Mm-hmm. I think that's why I liked the teaching side of it.
When you did you feel like anybody would look at you like, what do you know? You are a woman.
Oh, absolutely.
From the young cadets.
Absolutely. Not so much even from the other cadets, because we were also just we were just babies still in college, But when I did go into the military, especially when I was assigned to a fighter squadron, which is my very first assignment, that's all men. At that time, we didn't have any female pilots. And these are the elite. These are the fighter pilots of the U.S. Air Force. And so while they were cordial to me, there were still, you could tell in the back of the mind, they were like, okay, here's this little female, and there was only 2 female in the entire squadron. Who's this little female telling us? But fortunately, I had one of the gentlemen who was well respected, and he was in a position of authority, took me aside and he said, "I'm going to make you the best intel officer you could possibly be." So he took me under his wing and he mentored me. And we're still friends to this day, but I will never forget how he took the time to, whenever we had a question, he would set aside anything that he was working on and say, "Let me help you answer that question," or anything that I wanted to talk about, or any of us, he would say. And he went on to become a 4-star general, which was great. I love that. But we knew he would be good. So those kinds of things stuck in my mind about how to treat people and how to be, so I was very fortunate. Yeah, I was fortunate to have people, mentors, all throughout my various careers.
Yeah, you can tell by that who the really leadership position, who has the qualities for leadership. Yeah. Because I have met both ways. I have met very chauvinistic bosses and very very much like what you're saying, very open-minded. My door is always open, and you have huge respect, but at the same time you feel like you can really come with anything and he will help you. Yeah. I was blessed to have a boss like that at once.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
I was so fortunate to be able to have somebody like that so early on in my career, because I got to think, you know what, this is how you treat people. And that was the role model that I wanted to model.
Did you not have it at home?
I did. My parents, well, kind of what was interesting is before I went into the military, I came from a very traditional family, and my parents were very much against me as a daughter going into. It was okay if I wanted to be a nurse, maybe even a doctor, an attorney, something like that, or teacher, perfectly fine. And it was okay for brothers to think about going into the military, but for a daughter to go in, oh my gosh, I thought they were going to disown me. But they finally warmed up to the idea. And then at the end, it was my father and mother who both, commissioned me into were at my swearing in ceremony and swore me into the military. So they came around and were very, very proud. But there was, and they supported us throughout the years, but it was just a different time.
Yeah. How long did you stay in the military?
I stayed, a normal military career is 20 years or beyond. And I was able to retire at at 15 and a half years because the military, so that's considered an early retirement. The military was told to downsize, and basically they were paying people to get out. Congress had told people, or had told the military, you need to downsize. We don't have the money to continue to fund at the levels we need to or want to. So people were allowed to retire early with less than 20 years, or they were given a bonus to get out. So I just happened to have the right amount of years in to be able to retire early. So, wonderful. Here I was 39 years old and retired from the Air Force.
Yeah.
And very young enough to be able to start second or third career.
Yeah, well, let's go there, because I would like to know, well, first of all, what was happening in your personal life as you are Air Force member?
Okay.
And then what was the next step when you did take the early retirement?
Oh, well, I had while I was in the Air Force, I got married to my high school sweetheart, and he went into the Army, and here I am in the Air Force. So, and then as a result of being married, I think we were married about 12 years. We had two little girls. And then, though, the marriage eventually broke up, and that was an extremely stressful period for me. In fact, that was one of the stories I chatted about in one of my transformational periods, was how difficult that time was, because here I was working huge, long hours. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. I had just given birth to my second daughter, the youngest, and I was ill from the birth, and then I was hospitalized. The stress of everything that was going on was tremendous, and the doctor was basically telling me, he says, you got to do something to get rid of the stress. So I had to start making some changes at that point, because he said, if you don't get rid of the stress, you're going to have two motherless kids. Jeez. And that was a huge wake-up call to me, that I was taking on too much, not dealing with the stress well, not taking care of my own body. And I had to slow down and simplify some things. So
yeah, but that's easier said than done. How do you know where to go with this? Like, how do you get rid of stress when you are in the middle of stressful divorce?
Yeah,
and else?
At first, because I was going through all this stuff, here my husband had walked out on me. He wanted a divorce. I had 2-year-old and a 2-month-old, and I'm trying to think, what do I do now? And I eventually confided in my boss at work. Mm-hmm. You're going through all of this and you think, oh my gosh, I'm so ashamed. I've got all this stuff. I can't deal with it. What's going on with me? I finally confided in my boss, and he was so warm and so good and so supportive. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't expect that. I don't know why I didn't expect it, but it was so nice to have that support behind me. And so then I would tell a few more people, and it was amazing how people just kind of rallied around and said, what can we do to help? Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do to help. Thanks. So I realized that reaching out and asking for help when you need it, there's nothing wrong with it. You just have to get over yourself, this thought that, oh my gosh, they're going to think of me as weak, or what's wrong with you? You can't handle what's going on in your own life. But it was so good to have people step up and say, let's help you.
Was there, your family was still around?
My family, and since I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, yes. So my family was back in Kansas. So, I spent some time there to heal and, take care of things and get things straightened out. And then just started, really coming to the acceptance that my life was going to change. I was now going to be a single mom and, had to move on. And then the Air Force reassigned me back to Hawaii, where I was once again among some friends that I had been with previously, and was able to just really start a whole new life again and start over.
That's when you decide to settle there?
I decided to settle there. I then met my second husband. He was also in the Air Force. Met him. We got married. The Air Force then offered the early retirement. And I had the opportunity to say, okay, where do I want to go? And I just thought, can I go back to Kansas, or do I want to stay in Hawaii? So, Kansas, Hawaii won out. Yes. So that was not a hard decision. So I just decided to stay in Hawaii, and it's just been a marvelous thing. Even after my second husband passed several years ago, I still obviously have stayed in Hawaii because I've got such a culture of people here that surround me now. I've been in the community for so long that it's a wonderful place. So, I'm in a good place that if I decide I want to pack up and leave, I can. But for the foreseeable future, I love it here. I love it here.
And you have such a sunshine around you. It's showing how you are. I'm sure not everything is perfect, but you make it perfect. You make it the best you can out of the situation that you are in. And it's just so happy to see you, this peace around you. There's something about it.
Oh, thank you. It hasn't always been that way. I thank you very much for that, because, there were these times that obviously, going through the divorce, being a single mom, then my husband, my second husband passed. He was ill for a while, and then having to deal with that, being his caregiver, and then dealing with his passing. And then, I had my own cancer experience. So there was a very rocky time there. And you just basically, you're living with holding your breaths. And I know a lot of other people can relate to that. So you live every day just holding your breath, thinking, okay, am I going to get through this day? But you do. And that's kind of why I do what I do now, because I encourage people to realize you will get through this, no matter what kind of difficulty you're going through. This is only a temporary place, and it's just meant to maybe strengthen you and maybe help you recognize the strengths that you really do have that you can't see right now, but you really are stronger than you think. And yes, it has brought me to this wonderful place now where I'm so much stronger than I was. I know how to basically stand in my power. I know who I am, and I feel so much more empowered, but I also feel so much more joy and at peace with who I am. And not to say that I sit back and just let things roll around. I'm basically more in control of my own life now.
I think that's the most important thing, when we go through life kind of reacting to what happens.
Yeah.
Or when we really grab that control and realize that you are in charge and you can make things happen that will lead the life you want to live from now on, no matter what happened before. And it's really hard, and we all speak from our own experiences, when you are in that deep mess. It's of course hard to see that, and and all these quotes like, oh, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. We know it is true, but you don't feel that when you are going through that mess, and you feel like, how much more can I take? This is like, it's insane. And then when did this happen, when you realize that it's your mindset that you have to get control of, that will kind of change how you approach things and how you deal with things? And you were a strong person already because you went through the training in the military, and I'm sure that, like you said, you were seeking for that structure and discipline and everything. So that's a big plus. But
obviously when it comes to personal life, we go to periods when we feel like we can't take more anymore.
Right.
Especially
Yeah.
as women.
Oh, especially as women. I was, again, so many, I want to say there are no coincidences in life. And I was able to go to this conference, and the keynote speaker was a gentleman named Jack Canfield, who was also the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series.
Yes.
And he was speaking, and I thought, oh, why we're at this business conference. It's a international conference for business people. And I thought, well, we're all happy in our businesses. Why do we need to be, more warm and fuzzy? Because that's what he was known as. I didn't realize that he was actually a personal development trainer. And the talk that he gave was so profound, and it just had so many light bulb moments going on that I thought, gosh, I'd really love to be able to teach that. But that's his gig. You can't plagiarize what he's doing. But I got on his mailing list, and it was at a time then after that conference too, where I had been thinking, what else should I be doing? There's something more I needed to be doing with my life. I could just feel it. Even though I had a good photography career, I'd finished up a nice military career, there was still more that I felt I could be doing. And I got on his email list, and his email came out and it said, what are you doing the rest of your life? And it was an invitation to a week-long personal development retreat on Maui with Jack Canfield. And it was the first time he was ever doing anything like that. And that just called to me. And so
right in your backyard.
And it was in my backyard. I thought, oh my gosh, it's in Maui. At that, I don't have to travel, halfway across the world to attend it. Well, anyway, I wound up applying to go because they were only taking 20 people, out of his thousands and thousands of people that he knows. And I wound up getting accepted into the retreat. And that was such a defining period for me, because it really helped me now understand more about myself, and gave me so much self-esteem, self-empowerment. It made me think in a different way, and it made me realize, and I think this was probably one of the biggest takeaways, was that I'm responsible for everything that happens to my life. Things happen, but it's how I choose to respond to it. Absolutely. Is what's going to set the path forward for me. And it was such a profound experience being there and learning all of this that I can't even describe, how good it was to do that. But that then became the basis for me wanting to learn more in the personal development realm, and got invited to then become a legacy trainer of Jack Canfield, and then got to actually, he was teaching us that talk that he had given and said, I want you all to take this talk and take it out into the world. So I am actually, have been trained to be able to do that as well. So
is this when your husband was still around, or is it after?
Yes, at that point he was still around. So it was very fortunate that I'd gotten all of this self-empowerment and self-development training, because it really helped calm my mind when he was diagnosed with his illness and going through that for the next few years. Because it was just shortly after that he was diagnosed, and he eventually passed from leukemia. But we spent pretty much 2 years prior to that dealing with that. But it was my mindset that helped keep me calm, and recognizing that this was a stage, and this was a period, and it was something that we had to accept and flow through, instead of trying to fight everything that was going on around us. So I was able to stay calm throughout that period. And then even when I was diagnosed with cancer a year after he passed, I was still able to use all of that same empowerment to recognize how to get through all of this, how to, it's not like try to block things out, but it was more of, how do I cope with this in the best way possible, in the calmest way possible, that's good for my mind, but it's also good for my body physically.
Health, because stress is showing up exactly there.
So I really, and people would ask me, they said, I don't know how you're doing it. How are you managing to get through with even a sense of humor through all of this?
Thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God. And, and I had people around me when I got my cancer diagnosis, I had other people around me and say, oh my gosh, Kathy, aren't we lucky that we live in a time frame that we can get these things diagnosed and then have a plan developed for how to treat it? I said, and I thought that's such a different way of thinking about, okay, you get this horrible diagnosis and then you think, but aren't we lucky? And so it's those kinds of things that really helped me, I had the foundation to be able to keep building on that and then just keep going through it all. And here I am, I'm fine, obviously, today, and still smiling about things and even smiling more now.
That's something that, it's just such a reminder. And like I just said before, that you project such a shiny kind of happiness around you, and it's so calming and peaceful. And we kind of have sometimes snap judgments about people and think, oh, they got it easy, like they have no idea what I'm going through because she got it easy, right? And it's the opposite. It's the opposite of things. Many times when people are really warm and helping others and being there for others, it's because they went through a lot of hardships themselves, but they learn how to cope with it and how to overcome it, not just deal with it, but became better people because of it. And it shows so much in you. It's incredible. That's
thank you. And that's why I feel so strongly about wanting to help other people to know that no matter what you are going through, you are going to get through this, but let me help you find that foundation within yourself that's going to help you do that. Because I really think that if I hadn't had that foundational training prior, I probably would have been a mess.
For sure. Yeah.
But
sure.
I just was very, very fortunate that things were set up for me.
Isn't it interesting? Do you have people around you that the personal growth kind of question never even crossed their mind? They just go through life reacting to things, dealing with stuff, sometimes feeling sorry for themselves, blaming things on others or circumstances or whatever it is, and basically making themselves a victim because they believe that's out of their control.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It is sad to see people that way. There are people that I do see and they recognize it, and then somehow we'll connect and they'll ask me, how did you get to where you are? And that's their way of reaching out. And I'm thinking, okay, let me see if I can't ignite that little flame inside of you too.
Yes. That was my question, because can you actually take somebody who is reactive, like I mentioned before, can you actually take them and open their eyes that there's so much more if they only open their mind to possibilities, that maybe things are in their control, they're just lying to themselves and telling themselves stories? It's not easy.
It's not easy. They have to want it. That's the big thing. People have to want change. If change is going to happen for them, they have to want it. So when people do approach me or just even, very superficially ask me about how did I get to where I am, if there is that sense that they want things to change for themselves, then I truly believe that there is the ability to ignite that little flame. There's always a little flame inside of people, but sometimes it just gets so buried and so dim. And I think if we can just reach inside and help them reignite it, then they have that ability to make the changes. And I have seen it happen with people, people that I've worked with. And I think that's why I really enjoy doing what I do, because when I see that light bulb go on within them, it's like, oh my gosh, they get it.
That's what makes it really joyful when you are able to do that for people. Can I go back to the moments, if you don't mind, and if it's too sensitive, you tell me. When you lost your husband, what was the first thing you realized you need to do for yourself? What was the first few months like?
Oh my word.
I mean, yes, I know it's been a few years, but if you can recall, looking back, because there are people that just lost someone and they are going through periods when they are trying to figure out, where do I go from here? It feels like the entire life plans got shattered.
Yeah. What was it like? For the first, obviously, even just for the first week, 2 weeks, I just kind of walked around the house, boo-hooing. Who wouldn't? Boo-hooing. You just lost your husband, boohooing, and I'm thinking, I just want to know you're okay. That was my biggest thing. I wasn't even so much worried for me or what was going to happen, or am I going to be able to pay the bills, any of that. I kept saying, I just want to know you're okay. I just want to know you're okay. And
Meaning your husband.
meaning my husband, I said, and how am I ever going to know? I'm never going to know. Are you okay? Now, because I just saw you pass.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a very lonely period. But what happened, I want to say about 6 or 7 days later, and this is kind of one of those really interesting types of things. I had a woman call me up, and she was a friend. It was somebody I knew. She called me up and she said, Kathy, do you mind if I come over? I have a gift for you. And I said, please do, please come over. It's fine. So she came over and she said, Kathy, I have to tell you, I have a message. She goes, you don't know this, but I am, kind of connected to the other side. And she says, I have a message from your husband. And she didn't know anything that I've been walking around saying, I just want to know you're okay, right?
Yeah.
She didn't know that. She goes, I have a message for your husband. She said, he wants me to tell you that he's okay. I said, oh my gosh. And she said, you will get through this. And she goes, I just want you, she goes, he's okay. He wants you to know that. And he wants you to go on living and live your life now. You're going to be okay. And that just kind of brought this calm to me. And I realized, okay, I have to start living. I wasn't the one who died.
Yeah.
And I have to start living. And, I still felt, there's still more for me to do in this world. So although it was a very terrible, sad time, and there was a lot of, as anyone who's lost a spouse knows, there's a lot of adjustments that have to be made. And it's just that fear of the unknown, what's going to happen. So I decided the biggest thing, again, I knew that I had to start getting control. I had to start taking control of my own life. He wasn't there to make decisions for me anymore. And that was what was empowering to me now, is going back to that understanding. Is like, okay, I'm the one that's responsible here now. I can do this, and I have to do this. If I want to move forward, I have to do this. So I started just, one thing at a time, one step at a time. We had a hurricane that was coming. So I thought, okay, we got to get prepped for that. That was, like 3 or 4 months after my husband passed.
Shock into reality, right?
Yeah, it was shocking. It's like, oh my gosh, there's, we were in a hurricane. They said there's a hurricane headed towards the Hawaiian Islands. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what do we do? I remember when my husband was alive and we had little hurricane warnings, he said, oh, we got a flashlight, we're fine. I'm like, okay. But what I did was I'm thinking, okay, you know what? We're going to get prepped. We're going to make sure we have plenty of food, plenty of extra water. Because at that time, my daughter had come home to stay with me for a little while. We're going to make sure we've got plenty. So I bought like 24 flashlights, instead of just having one. But it was things that I thought, okay, I'm good now. I can take care of myself. And it was just one, you take it one day at a time. You wake up and you just start breathing again. And you take it one day at a time, one step. Sometimes it's one moment at a time, but the whole thought process is move forward. And that's, 1 week became 2 weeks, 2 months, then it was a year. And now here he's been gone. I was just thinking, it was over Thanksgiving 10 years ago. 10 years ago, this Thanksgiving was when we got his diagnosis of leukemia. So he's been gone, 9.5, almost 10 years now. But, I think about it and I don't mourn his loss anymore, and I've gotten well past that. It's just like, there was the joy of living. He had so much joy about him for life. And that's how we need to be. And I have to always remember that. And so I try to live in a state of joy now.
Yeah, you certainly do. There was something about you when you responded to me, and we got on a short call to just introduce each other, to just kind of find out if we are the right fit. And I felt like, oh my God, this is totally fantastic. I love this woman already.
Oh, thank you.
No, it's been, it is also important to be able to share this experience of losing your spouse with somebody else who did the same. And it's not because it's like, I believe that we all need something else. Like, everybody is different and everybody deals with things differently. And But you know, if we are this kind of perfectionists that we mostly are always, we start questioning, am I doing it right? It's like, am I taking too long? You know, it's people start hinting at you like you should be dating again, and
Right.
it's just so ridiculous, because every single person is unique and individual. They
Exactly.
need exactly different things. So I am strongly opposed to certain like time limits, or you know, oh, within first year you shouldn't be doing this, and within second year you should. And there's plenty of books written on that, and it's like there was some rule out, you know, out in the world how this should be done.
Yeah.
And
There's,
I think everybody is completely different person. And I have met somebody who, she came back to the apartment and threw everything out because she couldn't breathe. I have myself, I had a room that was full of my husband's stuff that I didn't walk into for a year.
yeah.
And didn't touch anything. Everybody is so different. And so I'm always curious, you know, how someone else, and again, you have completely different background, and you know, and I'm sure the military also played role in
Yeah.
how you deal with things. And plus we both, actually, it's funny, we have that in common as well, because I started doing coaching training and certification 2 years before my husband was diagnosed. So
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
already
Interesting.
also trained, and I felt that it helped me big time to deal with the deal with the whole situation better, because I
Mhm.
was so much stronger, and so much I realized what is important and what is not. And it just, it's compared to, I used to be that go-getter that, you know, I was kind of rolling my eyes over everybody who would say, oh, I'm trying to find myself, and I'm like, oh my God, come on, give life a good life.
Right. Right.
But I became that, because then you realize there really, like you said, there is something else, something more than maybe we should be seeking for. But we, even though we do great job and we love it what we do, or I've had a businesses and everything else, at some point you feel like, is that all there is there
Ex-
something else, you know? And then again, like, you arrive back to teaching again, because coaching is basically, it's not teaching per
Exactly.
se, but it is very much in that field when you need to understand people's psychology, to be able to listen to them, and to be able to kind of show them different perspective of, and detect where they are running their own story, and they may be on this vicious cycle that
Hmm.
you need to snap them out of there, so they can see different picture. Somebody
Yeah.
just recently said, like, you cannot watch picture from inside of the frame if you
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You can't, I can't even coach myself too well. That's why,
Yeah,
coaches, we have coaches,
exactly.
because somebody put it this way. They said, you can't read yourself. You said the same thing about a picture frame, but you can't you can't read the outside of a mayonnaise jar from the inside.
Yeah,
So you
and
have
it's
to
the
have
same for
somebody to help you.
business. You are in business, and you are dealing with some problem, and because you are so obsessed with the issue, and you know the situation, and on the top of it you're dealing with the daily tasks and everything, you cannot see the solution, because you don't even get quiet enough to be able to see
That's
it.
it.
And
That's
so
Getting
somebody
quiet
else
is key.
looking at it, that has no emotional attachment to it and doesn't have all the issues related to it, can see things that are obvious, but you can't see it. And it's not that
Right.
you're not smart enough, but you just, from the inside it looks completely different.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And you're so right. I absolutely agree with you. Everybody is unique and different, and everybody's going to be working on a different timeline. And even when they decide that they want to make changes or transform their lives, it's a different timeline for how fast those changes are going to happen for them, because their thought processes are different. Their upbringing is different. Their roadblocks are different as well. So there's just so many different factors. So yeah, there's no cookie cutter response.
And also the level of personal development that we are willing to approach or not. I
Mhm.
think plays a big role, because then if you are somebody who always went through the life just dealing with the things as they come, and kind of like, I look at it now when I'm looking back at my life before I started realizing these things, you kind of go half on automatic pilot.
Oh,
You really don't
absolutely.
pay attention to things. You just do what you always did, and then, okay, well, I lost this job, so let me get another one, and
Mhm.
always looking at it like temporary solution almost, because then you will be destined for something else, and then
Right.
half a life is gone, and it's like, oh my God, where did it go? And you're
Exactly.
not in the driver's seat. It just happened to you. So I think it's very important when eventually, and I've met people that realized it much younger than me. It took me really long time, but it's suddenly you see things completely different, and it's not that it's easy. Once you
Right.
realize, it's not that it's easy to take care of your mindset and be completely in charge every single day, but you try and you realize the patterns, and you remind yourself, you doing the negative talk again, you can
Right.
catch yourself. And I think if people can do that, that's really sad, because then they are not able to recognize the problems that they are dealing with over and over and over again.
Oh, exactly right. They just stay in that circle of, self guilt or
Yeah.
just and it's just a horrible cycle when you see people, and sometimes you just want to shake them and say, let me take you out of them. But also then I also believe, sometimes people have to go through that, and that's the only way they're going to learn. You have to let them learn at their own pace. Sometimes you might be able to say, maybe think about this a little bit, and if they're open to it, they will take that little nugget and then maybe take another little nugget, and they'll start moving forward. But
Yeah.
it's really so dependent on the individual.
As long as they don't settle into it like that's their new comfort zone, because some people use their pain because they know for sure that, when I'm there and I have my anxiety, or I have my panic attack, or I have my grief, or whatever it is for anybody, that they know for sure that they'll get the attention, they'll get the love,
Oh,
they will get the, it's predictable
absolutely.
for them. So
Yep.
unfortunately, there are also patterns in people when they settle in that, because that's the certainty that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And the uncertain, if I change this, what if I lose this? It's just becoming very, very, emotional roller coaster in their mind, because
Right.
instead of feeling it with their heart, they start logically evaluating everything. And it's like, you can never help yourself when you are in that place.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly right. I agree with you. Absolutely.
So tell me, how does it look like when somebody decide to work with you? What can you do for them? What do you say you help them with?
I let, if I have somebody coming to me for coaching and saying they need some help, I first really asked them, I said, what is it that you want? What do you want to happen? Where do you want to go? Because I like to start with the end in mind and then work backwards. And then I just let them talk to me a little bit or a lot and just explain to me how they got to where they are. And one of the things that really I know I'm good at is I'm actually so in tune. I can see things below the surface, obviously, that they can't see, but I can see it at a level that even surprises me. It's so clear to me. I mean, even when I'm doing my photography work, that's what made me a good photographer, is that I could see things. If I was photographing somebody, I knew how to get the best angle for them, how to make them sit in a certain way, or how to put the light a certain way so that I could bring out their best, what was just below the surface, because it's there. They just need some help bringing it out. And so that's the same thing that when I'm coaching with somebody, the answers for them are there. They just don't realize that it's just below the surface, and it's just helping them get below the surface and recognizing, oh my gosh, that's it. And it's a lot of just talking, and then just bringing out little points, and I'll listen very carefully to what they're saying. And then at some point I'll say, have you thought about it this way? Because a lot of what I do is get the transformations for people is to get them to shift away from their previous pattern. As a coach, you probably know that too, getting them to think away from their usual thought process and start thinking in a different way. It goes back to when that lady, when I was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm thinking, boo-hoo, pity me. And she made me shift and think, isn't it great, that you're living in this time, and we can manage this much better than we could have 5, 10, 20 years ago. So again, when I'm working with people, that's what I like to do, is figure out, okay, how can we help them shift the narrative, the stories that they keep telling themselves that really probably are no longer true. They believe it's true.
Yeah.
But we, as a coach, can see it from a different angle and say,
And it
let's look at it
definitely is not serving them well, because
exactly, because they're stuck.
they are because of that. Yes.
They're stuck in this kind of endless loop. And so it's really helping get in there and short circuiting that loop, and not in a bad way, but just helping them step out and say, let's change that. Let's change those words a little bit, but let's shift that thought process. And that to me has really helped people. It's really helping people connect with who they are. What were the patterns? What were the positive patterns? That's one of the other things I like to do, is help people not look back. It's easy to look back on the negative patterns of your past.
We
So
all
easy,
have
because
that
those emotions,
tendency,
we all do that because the emotion is attached to that is so strong. But what I try to do is get people to look at their past and say, what were the positive patterns out of that? And they actually have to sit and think about that.
Yes.
To do that. And when I had to do that actually at the retreat with Jack Canfield, he made us all sit down and say, tell us the good things about yourself. And I got choked up. I couldn't talk about myself, because we're taught, don't talk about yourself, don't brag on yourself. And what shifted me, and what shifted when I shift and work with people that want to work with me on this, it was learning that it's okay. You're not necessarily bragging on yourself. Think about honoring yourself, honoring all of the experience that you've had. And when Jack asked me about that, he said, Kathy, let's look at it this way. What is it that you really want to do in life? And I said, I want to help people. And he said, well, how can you help people if they don't know all the good things about you and all the good things that you've done and all the good experience that you've gained? How can you help them if they don't know that?
Why would they be attracted to you for that?
Exactly. How can they help you if they don't know what you've got?
Yeah.
And that was such a defining moment for me. And he said, again, and this is where I take it, it's not about bragging, because I couldn't tell people, you mentioned in my bio about the award that I got, but, and there's been other awards, but I couldn't even mention those. I really found it hard, because I thought, oh, you don't brag about yourself. But he said, Kathy, you've got to tell people that, because that lets them know what you've done and how you got here and how you can help them. Boy, that was a big moment. It really,
that's actually a really strong moment for most of us, I think, because we have the tendency to kind of diminish ourselves, and you don't want to, be seen and everything. And then you are the best kept secret. You can't get
exactly
if nobody knows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I find that's actually, when I do that in my workshops, that's what I do, because I'm like, oh my gosh, people, you got to talk about yourself. It's okay to brag on yourself. Again, reframing it from bragging, or this is an ego-based way of speaking. And basically, you got to get back and thinking about you're honoring who you are.
What are you focusing on also?
Yeah.
From previous. Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah, so many, I've just been fortunate to have so many different and interesting experiences, and being able to have the opportunity to relay those to other people, and then seeing the light bulbs go on for them. It's such a marvelous thing to be able to share.
Do you think that your years in the military affected the way you coach?
Oh, absolutely. Everything, where I grew up, the career that I had in the military, even the negative experiences, and that the people that I've come across over the years that may have not been the best or most pleasant people to be around, I think all of those bring you to wherever you are today, and you try to take the best of that. You always have to say, what was the gift in this? And so, to talk about what did I learn in the military, it really helped me realize that there is, if you dig, because I was an analyst in the military, I was in intelligence, but basically I was an analyst taking all this information and trying to figure out what was the puzzle here. And it's the same thing when people come to me, for coaching. It's like, okay, we got a puzzle here. How do we figure out where the pieces are going to go together and how they're going to go together? So you take all of this different, pieces, and you start putting them together and seeing the patterns there and seeing how does this all fit? How does it all work together? And that was where my thought processes from the military would go to. It's like, okay, I've got this. This doesn't make sense. So I'm going to go run that down a little bit more and ask more questions about that or do more research on it. And that's the same thing in working with coaching clients, is trying to figure out, okay, hey, we've got this piece. This is good. This is great. Let's figure out now how these are going together. If something doesn't fit or there's a question that can't be answered, then maybe it's, let's just set that aside for now. And then we're going to come back to it and we'll see what more information, where do we need to go with that?
Mm-hmm. You
So,
just made a case for somebody who I met a few people online years back when I was starting in coaching that had the idea that, why do I need a life coach? What are you going to tell me how to live my life? I have a girlfriend for that. And I had to laugh, but you just made the case why it is important, because I believe nobody really needs a life coach. Nobody needs it.
right.
But if you want to excel, if you want to take it out of the average and be good at what you do, or how you live your life, or how your relationship is, or how your business prosper, whatever it is, you need another pair of eyes that has expertise into looking into patterns and look at that puzzle, like you just mentioned perfectly, to see where are the blind spots that you may not be able to see. And your girlfriend is not going to do that for you. Your girlfriend is going to impose her own opinion on you, which we don't do. That's the big difference, because we coach out of place to show you where you may have blind spots and you figure it out. We don't tell you what to do or how to approach it. We show you the way. But what I love about it is when I realize you can't tell people what to do, because they will be opposed. They will oppose that. But once you show them that there may be another path, and what about this, and what about this, and how about this, and then suddenly they come with the solution they didn't even see before.
Right.
That's the beautiful moment when you feel like you got something. It's like, oh my God, I never thought of it this way.
Yeah, I love those moments when it's just like, and I have that happen when they reach that. And that's, you said, use the word, a coach will help you excel. A coach will also help you accelerate, because we help them get there faster. They could go along and keep trying to figure it out on themselves. I was that same way myself, but it's like, if you have somebody from the outside who knows how to do this, it speeds up the process. So you get them there faster.
When you think of it, all the big athletic stars, if they want to get somewhere, they have a coach who sees them on a field and can recognize where they may be having weaknesses, why certain things happen. And they have different expertise and point of view than you may have, because you are playing in it. Just like when we talked before, when you are in your own business solving problems, you may not see all the solutions because you are inside of that problem.
Exactly right.
Same thing, like when you have a coach can look at things, see these perspectives, use your own experience from very diverse fields to support you with seeing completely different solutions. It's like, I like to think about it like, you don't think outside of box, you create your own box.
Yeah, exactly. And not only athletes have coaches, but I have a good friend. He is an aspiring actor, but he has a coach. And it took him from just playing background roles, little walk-on parts, maybe being on screen for 1 second. Working with a coach, he got so good that he actually then had a speaking part, a real role with one of the stars on Magnum PI.
Yeah.
So it's just showing you how a coach can get you really from where you are to where you want to be, help you excel and get there faster.
And one other thing that was important for me for my personal growth, when I had 3 surgeries in my back, and I believed doctors at that time, and they were telling me that I can't do anything, I can't lift anything, I'm basically done for life. And then I found a personal trainer, my coach, who had a wonderful background in physical therapy. He was specializing in people with medical challenges, like I was, because I never stepped foot in the gym because I believe I can't lift, I can't do anything. I was like, I wouldn't even know where to start not to hurt myself. And he started working with me. And 2 years later, I'm deadlifting 135 pounds.
Wow.
And I'm doing 300 pounds on my legs. And if you told me that 2 years before that, I would think that you were out of your mind. So that's also what coach does for you, because the coach knows how to get you there. And he knows what there's a wonderful preacher that I'm friend with that has, whenever he speaks, everything sticks with me because he is such a powerful storytelling. And he said, as a like synonym, you can go and visit rainforest on your own. You can totally do it. You can find your way, and and put whatever, you take a map and you do. But try to experience it with experienced guide that can, first of all, protect you from making some deadly mistakes that you would walk somewhere and you can really die. Point things to you that you wouldn't even see because you don't know anything about it, and you wouldn't know what to look for. Bring you easier, faster way so you preserve your energy. All that stuff, it's completely different experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel the coach's work is. You can absolutely do it yourself.
Absolutely.
But sometimes there's also a reason why you haven't done it yet.
Right.
Because we are not holding ourselves accountable so well.
Or we don't know. We don't have the expertise to be able to do it. I have a golf coach. I could take the golf club and try to go out and hit the ball and chase the ball, hit the ball, chase the ball. But the game is so much more fun since I have a coach to help me really understand the fundamentals behind it and how not to go out and kill anybody on the golf course.
That's right. Yep.
So coaches, are so, and the thing about a coach too, you have to find one that you connect with. Exactly. You find one that understands your needs and connect with, because not all coaches are the same either. And I have even had client where I had to tell one client, I don't think we're a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can refer you to somebody else, because his needs were different than what my capabilities or what my expertise was. I was not going to get him there. But having that good rapport and good communication with a coach that gets you is also so important to how.
That also speaks about your integrity, that you actually turn people away because it's in their own best interest.
It's in their best interest. I'm not going to take someone's money if I'm not going to be able to really do right for them, because that's my reputation as well.
Yes.
You just can't do that. That's wasting, to me, that's wasting somebody's time.
And a disservice to them as well, because they may then be scarred for years that I paid for coach and that didn't help me, and and
then they're totally against coaches now. Exactly. So
it's upset. And that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, because I know when people listen to you or listen to somebody else that I featured before, we all have preference in people, in some, it gotta resonate with you, because the coaching is very, very intimate process. And I believe there is coach for everybody. And sometimes when you listen to people and you listen to their own personal stories and you kind of meet them as a human being as they are, you start noticing what maybe you may not be able to tolerate for you, or the opposite, you find like, oh my God, this is totally my person.
Exactly.
Where have you been my whole life? you know?
Right.
And that's the whole point why I do this, because I think the podcast is such a slow format that we have time to actually really not be shallow, go a little deeper, go a little deeper, what caused things, what was important to you and stuff like that, because it may be important to your clients
Right.
when they are
Exactly.
deciding who to work with. Yeah. So who is your ideal client? Who you most likely work with?
My ideal client at this stage of my life is people, men or women, who find themselves at a transition point, whether it could be they just had a health scare. Now they think, I got to change things. Okay. I got to change things up. And maybe it's not because they need a health coach, but it's because they got to do some other work inside, and they recognize that. Or it's somebody who's transitioned out of a relationship. Maybe they're widowed, or maybe they're just recently divorced after many years of marriage, or they just lost a job, or they decided they need a career change. You have all these people, and I work with people now. I'm finding people after 50, because they're at a different mindset now, because they realize, hey, I'm potentially halfway, maybe not quite halfway through my life, and I don't want to waste any more time.
Yeah.
And so I find that people at this stage are like, I want to do this. I want to transition. I want to change my life. I want to up level.
Now when, right?
Yeah, if not now, when? I want to up level my life, or I want to change my life. What am I going to do? But I don't want to waste the time. I really want to move forward. Those are the people that I enjoy working with the most, because one, it tells me they're going to be committed to the process. And the process I take there is not a long process. I don't try to lock people in for, hey, okay, we're going to do this. It's going to take 6 months. It's going to take a year. I really like people get in and out and through coaching, even in 30 days or less than 30 days. Sometimes I can unlock something for someone in one coaching session. And they feel like, what, that's what I needed. And they're good. I said, what, come back if you need a tune-up. But those are the people who are at this stage of life and say, it's time for me to make some changes. It's time for me to get control, because where I am right now, it's not working for me. Yeah. Or I've got to make a change, and they're ready for change. Those are the people that I really, truly enjoy working with right now. And they don't have to be 50. Early birds, as I say, early birds are welcome. But I just find, because some people get to this space a little bit sooner than others. And so it's people who are saying, I need some new motivation. I need some new guidance. I've got to do, I need somebody to help me.
And isn't it also true when we go through life and we kind of forget to dream?
Yeah.
We had all these brilliant ideas when we were young, and then life kind of eaten it up, and then you develop your, protections, scars around you, and suddenly you lose track of who you are. You lose track of what you really wanted, not what everybody else around you wants, but what you really want.
That's, that's such a great point, because up to this point, this is another thing, is we have been cast into roles. You go to school, you get a career, you start a family, you're a parent, you're a spouse, and you have all these roles that are already predefined for you. But what happens now when you get to this point where you've done all of those things, and now you're finding yourself at a crossroads? Okay, maybe you're no longer the spouse, or now you no longer have that job title, and people are saying, who am I? And where am I going now? And how am I going to get there? That's the people that can really, I feel, use coaching to help them understand, okay, let's look at who you are. Let's get you on this path. Let's
yourself who you are.
Yeah, remind yourself of who you really are. It was sad when I was with my daughter when she was in college, and she was going through some kind of orientation. And I remember it was a mother-daughter luncheon, and I was sitting next to another young gal. And I said, oh, so what are you going to be studying in college? She goes, well, my parents want me to go into business, study business. And I said, okay. And I could tell that she looked kind of just sad about it. And so her mother wasn't listening. So I said, so what is it that you really want to study? She goes, I want to be a veterinarian.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, how that hurt my heart, because here is what she really wanted to do,
Yeah.
but she was having to do something else. So it's when we get to this age now, it's like, hey, you can do what you want to do now. Go do it. And I love talking with the people. I loved the one woman who decided that she wanted to start her own business now.
Yeah.
And so we chatted about that, and basically, looked at what were her strengths. How would she be able to sustain this? And we talked about it. And we even talked about, no, you need to up your price. And
Yeah.
so, and she did it. And she's running a very successful business now. It's totally her own
It's
business.
funny, you just reminded me with that story of that girl. You reminded me of one client I had years back when she was a lawyer, a very successful one. And she was a lawyer because her parents wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I think especially her dad was really, really proud of being. And so she lived about 20 years of her life in the picture that her parents painted for
Yeah.
her, because that's what they wanted. And she wanted to make them proud. And that's how she lived. And it's funny, you get to a point when even no matter how successful you are and no matter how much money you make and your parents are proud of you and everybody's like, what would you like, you can dream of better life. If deep inside there is some pain from the unfulfilled dreams that you once had and you have to like push them back because somebody else wanted something else for you, it never goes away. It starts growing.
It's that calling. And
yeah,
it's that calling. And that's why I say, you know what? This is the time now in your life. Go answer that calling. What is calling to you? Get back in touch with that. And I see so many people get so much happier when they are able to, or they feel like they have to have permission. I said, you never needed permission, but go do it now. If you need permission, then okay, I give you permission. Go follow that dream. Go answer that calling, because it's going to keep calling you.
Don't settle.
Yeah. Exactly right.
I think that's what really drives us, and it's Tony Robbins that I have been trained by. He says everything grows, everything in the nature grows. It either grows or dies. There's no such a thing as staying the same. When you think of any flower or weed or whatever in the nature, you either grow or you die. There is no between. There's no staying in one place. It changes, and every single day moment changes. So you can go back to going down the hill, give up on yourself, give up on everything that you really ever wanted, or you can say, the hell with it. This is my life, and that's the one life I have, and this is my time, and why not now? And it's a big difference, and it definitely requires courage. But I like you, I have seen people when they became completely different people when that light bulb lights up, and when they realize, oh my God, this is who am I? I have been doing this for so many years. Oh my God, I never. And it's just it's like pulling out the new flower from the old pot,
you know? It really is. And you know what? I also tell people it's never too late, because I have people ask, particularly women, they say, am I too old? It's too late for me to try to do that? And I thought, oh my gosh, no. I golf with a woman who is 81 years old, and another gentleman who's 80 years old, and they're having the time of their lives with it.
It's always
it's never too late. I really try to tell people, if it's calling you, answer.
I have a dear friend who moved to the other coast of Florida, unfortunately, so I don't have her nearby as I used to. But I have been there in June celebrating her 90th birthday.
Wow.
She is the most gorgeous, active, youthful person I ever met in my life. She is still dieting, which I was like, don't tell me all this. She is artistic. She has classes that she runs in a place where she is. Everybody loves her. She was on a horse. She was canoeing with her grandchildren.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean that she doesn't have aches and pains and she doesn't have her issues and
exactly.
stuff, but she wants to live her life to fullest. And it is such a joy to be around her. And that's one of the things also we do. When we start being observed with all our issues and problems, people don't even want to be around you. If you
Exactly
constantly
right.
complain and kind of give up, then where else is to go? It's seriously, it's if we can inspire somebody who listens to this to take an inventory. If you are really, really happy the way your life is going right now, is this your life? And I have my program that I call Life Without Limits. What are
Okay.
those limits that
Exactly.
are holding you back, or what limits are you fighting for?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
we all have the story that we believe so strongly that it became our identity, and it's
Yeah.
such a danger weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, if we can encourage others, it's not too late. You're not too old. Go. You'll always wonder. Go give it a try.
That's right.
What's the worst that can happen? You don't get anywhere. Well, you're not anywhere with it right now anyway.
That's right.
So why not step into it and give it a try?
And someone very smart said that the biggest regret people have is of the chances they never took.
Exactly right. Exactly. Or that the other thing that I heard is that they wish that they had started sooner.
Yeah.
When I talk to people about helping them find their purpose, quote unquote, they said, if I had a regret, it's wish I had discovered this sooner.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, so why not now? Exactly. Why not?
So Kathy, this is such a wonderful conversation.
I've enjoyed this tremendously.
Yeah. I have this crazy question for you.
Okay.
If and I don't want to sound morbid, but that's the only way to say it. If there was one way to be something written on your stone about you, what would you like to see there that describes you as a human being?
Oh, absolutely. It would say she lived a life that lit her up. Because that's what I want to tell people. I tell people my little motto is live a life that lights you up.
And you are.
And that's where, and so if you say, yeah, you see a light, that's where I feel you have to live a life that lights you up. And so I want people to say, she lit it up.
I am loving this. That's
what I would
perfect.
say.
That's perfect.
That's what I would say.
And one more wisdom that we can get out of you before we say
Sure.
goodbyes, for people that are kind of considering and they are not sure if it's for them, and they are thinking that maybe I should or maybe I shouldn't, and maybe what would you tell them if they are on a crossroads thinking like maybe this could be their one more chance to do something that they feel it's meaningful, it's impactful, it has a meaning for them?
I tell people very much to trust their intuition. Learn to, if your intuition or if something's calling you and saying, go do this, as long as it's not dangerous or illegal, go do it. Go do it. And here's the thing. You can start down the path of doing something, and then who says you have to stay that way? You can always shift. You can always move. You don't have to stay going that same path if it's not connecting with you, if it just doesn't feel right. So, somebody telling it's like an airplane, it's never completely on track. It's always adjusting as it's flying through the air. So that's the same thing that you can do too. You're not locked in. You can just step forward. You have to step forward to, get into action. Because again, action, creates movement, movement creates momentum. And that's what's going to get you going towards your goal. You're not going to get there if you just sit sit on the couch.
And thinking about it for another 20 years.
Exactly. So I just say, and don't worry about, oh, I have to wait for this to happen, or I'm gonna get all my ducks in line, then it's gonna happen. You know, all those ducks are never gonna get in line. You know, one of
Who
them is
knows
even
where
gonna be
they are?
yeah, who knows where they are, or one of them's probably a pigeon. So, you know, don't wait for those things to happen. Just start stepping into it. And what you're going to find is that the right people and the right other opportunities are going to start happening, and the doors are going to start opening for you. So you have to just start going with whatever it is that's calling you. Put it out there. The things, if it's the right thing that's going to happen, it's meant for you, the doors are going to open. The people are going to be there. The teams are going to be there. The opportunities are going to be waiting for you. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did, because that was such a joy, Kathy, to talk.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I really appreciate
and
the invitation.
I envy everybody who has the privilege to work with you, because you are this ivy of sunshine. If somebody is not so sure about themselves, I'm sure you fill them up with huge confidence and motivation. And it's been really privileged to talk to you about it, because I believe that that's a perfect profession for you. Perfect.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like I'm where I need to be at this stage in my life. So I put myself out there to want to help people, because this is what I'm being called to do. You know, light that light up for other people.
Yeah, because you have to live your words as well.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But again, it's my pleasure to have been here also. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, it's been a pleasure for me. Trust me. And I just would like to say, if anybody feel compelled to reach out to Kathy and maybe work with her, or maybe get into conversation, what that would be like. I will be posting all the connections and contacts to her in the show notes. And the best way to reach out to Kathy would be on your website?
Yes. Yeah.
And she also have a private Facebook group for women called Finding Focus After 50, which is private group for women. And she wrote to me, early birds are warmly welcome. So Kathy also have her own podcast that's called Finding Focus After 50. And her website is at KathleenDavenport.com. And like I said, I will put all the contact information below our podcast into show notes. So if you feel compelled to talk to Kathy more and maybe see what it may look like if you dealing with something in particular, and see if she can help you with that, please reach out. You can always have a conversation, and you can always find out if that's something that you're looking for, and if she's the right fit for you to help you get there.
Thank you.
This was fantastic.
Oh, my pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
And we were talking when we were introducing each other to ourselves over Zoom a few days earlier, and I was saying, like, Hawaii is on my bucket list, so maybe, who knows, maybe we become friends, and years later you will be invited to a retreat to come to either Florida or Hawaii to put all our expertise together and spend some wonderful time together.
I think that would be marvelous. I think we'll have to talk some more. I think that would be marvelous.
What I love about meeting other coaches is we all bring in our unique set of experiences. And those experiences shaped us. So those experiences shape the way we coach. Also, the way the type of training that we received is slightly different. The principles are always the same.
Exactly right.
And you can feel you can feel the coach that can relate to you, that can ask the right questions, you will feel heard, understood, not judgmental. You will have a safe relationship where you can only grow, and you can only be encouraged to take steps to become something that you maybe a long time ago dreamt of becoming. And like Kathy said, it's never too late. Doesn't matter if you are 50 or 85. Until the day you die, it is never too late.
Exactly right.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
I know
too.
how busy you are, and it was meaningful that you made time for us. Well, it was pleasure. Thank you so much. And I hope people will reach out and see how it may look like to work with the former Air Force cadet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
again.
so much.
All right.
Good night.
Take care.